So tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm a 6'5" Dominican man from the Bronx, and I'm genuinely looking for some.
Hey y'all, I'm back with another video, and yes, Love Island still has me in a chokehold, and y'all will deal because I had some more thoughts I wanted to share on this whole Janae and Kenny breakup situation and the subsequent reveal of Kenny basically being a closeted racist. And there were a few key points I forgot to address in the last video, but I came across a clip from someone on TikTok discussing the interethnic and intercultural dating dynamic as it relates to Janae and Kenny, and how it also relates to any Black women that are looking to date outside their race. And she fully captured what I was looking to touch on about what Black women need to look out for, specifically when dating men of other quote unquote oppressed ethnic groups. So let's take a listen to what she has to say, and then I'm going to come back with more commentary.
If I had to date outside of my race, I would date a white man before I dated a Hispanic or an Asian man. Here's why. Now, what made me think of this is obviously the Kenny and Janae situation, but I really want to talk about internalized hate within Hispanic communities. Mind you, the majority of them, especially Dominicans, are of African descent. However, they don't see themselves that way, and they don't see the people that they date that way either. Now, I don't want to just, get on Hispanic men. And of course, this is not all people. Like, don't be dense and assume that I'm talking about every Hispanic or every Asian person. That would be harmful and also would be incorrect. However, what I'm saying is a lot of them can date you and still feel like in some way that they're better than you because they're lighter than you. Or a lot of them will be like, that whole, I'm not Black, I'm Dominican. It's really anything that they can say they are that is not Black. Anything. And you will see that also in some Black people who are like, maybe like mixed with Native American. They'll be like, I'm Native American, I'm not Black. That is a real problem. And now that we've said that, I also would rather date a white man than a Native American. That's another topic for another day that people do not talk about, is how racist Native Americans can be towards Black people. And some people might say that's not racism because they're a minority group and they don't hold like power per se. So stay prejudiced if that makes you feel better. However, with white men, they know they're white. They're not trying to pretend to be anything else. They already stand at a point of privilege, and they already know that we're crossing a racial barrier here. There's no question of like, we're not the same. However, it is this kind of delusion of people who interracially date, especially if it's a Black and a Hispanic or Asian or Native American dynamic. There's this idea that you start formulating in your head that because we have this proximity, we have these kind of shared ethnic traumas. They're not really shared, and also they're not the same. And another thing is that does not mean that they have solidarity towards Black struggles. I took a race, class, and gender philosophy course in college, and my main thing is that I feel like there's a hierarchy of oppression. And I think those hierarchies are kind of formed by other people trying to elevate themselves by pushing other people down, kind of like in a capitalistic manner. A lot of people in minority groups are trying to find a way to separate themselves from the people who are at the bottom. Now, it's obvious to me that I'm not saying all white men are great. However, when I look at a white man, I'm already expecting that. And then they show me different, and I'm like, okay. However, with another minority, a man in another minority, I could date you and I wouldn't even be able to tell that not only do you not like me, your family doesn't like me. And all in all, if we had to compare people to apples, and white men were apples, they are not gonna call themselves a lemon just because they're a Granny Smith apple. And this might fly over your head, but this is exactly what is going on.
Okay, so that's what she had to say, and honestly, I couldn't have agreed more. I think Janae and Kenny's relationship fallout is a prime example of why, when dating out of our ethnicity, culture, or race, Black women just cannot afford to date down. And in this instance of dating down, I mean dating a male from another heavily oppressed group, because the same way all the isms that exist within the Black community, they also exist in other oppressed groups too, and often heavily impact the way the people, especially the men within those groups, think and perceive Black women, right? And I really like how she even touched on the aspect of how even if they choose you, sometimes you still have to consider the fact that they may have an air of arrogance or perceived betterness than you, like inherently feel superior to you, because in their mind they're still looking at things through like a racial hierarchy or white supremacist hierarchy, and they're feeling that they're still inherently better than you just because their skin is lighter or their hair is of a silkier hair texture or straighter hair texture. And that's something that I have always noticed. And like I said, you guys, going back to the New York City thing, I think having that heavy enmeshment with a lot of Latino groups, specifically the Caribbean Latinos, I've seen this dynamic play out in real life, right? I've seen it with even like Latina women dating black men, that they may have an attraction to black men, they may like have love for them, but then as soon as they get mad, it's like they're calling them slurs or monkey, or reminding them of how much they benefit by being from them just because they're lighter skinned, or just because their hair, or like being quick to like call the man's hair nappy or something like that, like something crazy like that. Like all those like racial microaggressions are always like brimming underneath, because there's still like an inherent sense of superiority within them. And it's the same thing you'll see even within the black race. You'll see it within dynamics of people that are dating like biracial black people or very, very lighter skinned black people. If those people still have like a colonized mindset and low racial self-esteem, a lot of times they will still like cling to that perceived superiority and will kind of use that to their benefit in a relationship with someone that's darker than them. They'll weaponize it against them. And it's just something that you have to really be mindful of. So in my experience, the only way it can work when you're dating outside your interethnically with someone that is from another oppressed male group, the only time it really works is if the man in question is extremely successful, wealthy, has access to more resources than you do. So he essentially does not actually need you for anything, not for clout or money, not a green card. He doesn't need you to increase his social status. So he's just genuinely choosing you for you. That's the only time I've seen that kind of dynamic work. And with Janae and Kenny, my understanding is that even on his season, he was being called out for being fake and for only being there for fame, right? There was a scene where a cast member named Miguel was asked what guy is there for clout, and he broke Kenny's balloon. So to me, that's a clear indicator that others around him were able to see through him. I don't know why Janae was not. I mean, from the clips I've seen, I can tell that like he was just not, he was not into her like that, like at least not genuinely from my perspective. But again, I wasn't there and I'm not Janae, so I don't know the inner workings of their relationship. But I do know that Janae was a fan favorite of her season. She was extremely loved. And if Kenny knew that, and him being the opportunist that he is, clearly, he probably felt he had a better chance of staying by being partnered with her. And he used that to his benefit. Janae is the one who helped him to stay longer on the show. So then when I came across comments like this from a woman of Kenny's same background, where she's saying how she was shocked when she found out that Kenny liked Janae, or that he was into Janae, because from her perspective, she knows Dominican men within her culture to be very colorist. And she expressed that she was shocked, and it wasn't because Janae's ugly or because that woman had any anti-blackness within her or she was being like a mean girl, but it's because she knows how the men within her culture operate and how it's extremely rare for them to willingly choose to date a dark-skinned black person unless they're getting something out of it. And she said, oh, like she got dragged for making those comments. People called her racist for saying that. But she wasn't wrong, right? And this is what I mean when I say, ladies, we need to listen to women of other backgrounds, especially when we're dating men of their culture. I'm always going to trust the opinions and perspectives of women within other cultures, because they're going to know their men better than an outsider, because they actually give birth to them, right? So now in Kenny's case, like the sociopath that he is, he realized partnering with Janae, creating a fake relationship, was going to be very lucrative. So even though he was not attracted to her and he was calling her slurs behind her back and saying how he doesn't like black women, and, like just calling her the hard ER, all this crazy stuff, he was willing to still play the long game in order to secure the bag. And this is something that black women need to be conscious of when dating males of other demographics that are oppressed or still like feel like they're aspiring ultimately for like the white ideal, right? Or they're very aligned with like white supremacist thinking, they tend to have a tendency to have really low racial self-esteem, and they embody the same white supremacist mindset and mentality that a lot of black men do. So it's really like no different than dating a self-hating black man. And if I'm being perfectly honest, black women just need to be conscious of this behavior with all men, though, because honestly, like I said before, black men will prey on black women and use them for money and clout, too. Look at the lady who wrote Stella Got a Groove Back. She met that Jamaican man, moved him to the States, married him, and was together for years, only to end up catching him in bed with another man. So that man used her for a green card to get to the United States. He didn't even like women deep down, but he faked that relationship for years just to get what he wanted. And this is why you don't help men, right? No matter what, especially you don't help the ones that can't do anything for you in return, not anything significantly at least. So my heart goes out to Janae. Her story needs to serve as a cautionary tale for other women as well. If and when you want to date out, just be selective and ensure you have extensive knowledge of how that culture operates, or how that specific ethnic group of men operates, and how they view women that look like you and how they perceive women that look like you by and large. And yeah, that's all I have to say on this topic, y'all. I promise this is the last one unless another update happens with them. But until next time, I will see y'all soon. Bye.